That highlight was the final call of the first win back in D.C. for the Nationals in decades after they'd returned to RFK Stadium in the '05 season. The closer who got that out and saved 46 other ball games that year to lead the major leagues with a 1.82 earned run average as an all-star, and the fifth leading balloter in the Cy Young chase that
How
year
about
is in
that?
studio with us right now, the Chief, Chad Cordero. It is awesome to have you in studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It has been a long, long time since we've seen you around these parts, but you're now back in D.C. for good, which we'll talk about. I know you've got an event coming up. Want to go down memory lane, talk old school Nats with you, but we should just start with what brought you back to the city here, as you've got a pretty cool thing you're doing with the D.C. Grays mentoring some young athletes before their game 2 days from now.
Right. Yeah. So what brought me back was, my desire to really work for the Nationals again. To work for the team that kind of gave me my start. I came up with Montreal, but the Nationals are really they're the ones that I really was able to make a name for myself. And I love the community. When I was here, I was always going to schools, whatever events they needed me to go. I was the first one to raise my hand and say, "Hey, I'll do it." Um, so knowing that, and always knowing that the fact that I wanted to come back and work for the Nationals somehow, I reached out to them, said, "Hey, if there's any openings you guys have, let me know." And they forward me over to their youth academy out here in DC. So I applied for it just like any other person would job, and I got it. And now
Some good recommendations, probably.
I want to see what that process was like when they're like, "All right, Danny Rouillet, that pile, Grant Paulson, that pile, Chad Cordero. I know that name.
know that
it's not
name.
the same guy. Wait, 2005.
Baseballreference.com/
This is him." So yeah, that's very, very cool. So
that is neat.
Clearly a passion for helping the youth and educating the masses here, because I know you had been in Hawaii the last couple of years, you were telling me,
right,
coaching softball.
right.
So then now you come back to DC and you're going to be the full-time instructor over at the Nats Youth Academy for their hustle baseball and their Nike RBI coach.
Right.
And
Yep.
then you'll get to do obligations and fun things like this with the DC Grays, where I guess you just go out and give them a little pep talk and chat them up and coach them up.
Yeah, it's a chance for me to kind of give back, like I said, to give back to the community, and help out the kids out here, and hopefully help get them to where I was fortunate enough to get to. It's so far. I mean, I've been here for about a month now, and it's been awesome. The reception I've gotten from fans and who've reached out or have seen me over at Nationals Park, because whenever the Nationals are home on the weekends, I'm there on pretty much every game and just kind of hanging out and meeting people and stuff.
Are
And
you in the crowd, or are you sitting? Where do you with the?
I sit in the crowd.
Really?
I'm just like a normal fan. Yep. Oh yeah. So every now and then I'll go up with Charlie Slows and sit up in the broadcast booth and just kind of enjoy that view from up there. But for the most part, I'm just kind of walking the concourse, and if I have my hat on, people recognize me. If I don't, they have no idea who I am.
Just totally incognito. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So what do you remember about that time? 05, 06, 07. In the annals of baseball history, a team that won 81 games in that first year and then was a few games under 500 the next few doesn't sound that remarkable.
Mhm.
But if you were here, you kind of knew. I was a DC baseball kid myself, and so all I ever wanted to do was play baseball in Washington, D.C. And we didn't have a team. So it was this, felt like a more special relationship maybe to
Right.
that point. That's kind of probably come back at you a little bit here as you've made your way here again.
Yeah, I mean, because those first couple of years at RFK, they were special. Having a chance to bring baseball back for the first time in, what was it, 30 years or something like
Yeah.
that, I think it was. To be a part of that it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me. I know it meant a lot to the other players, but RFK, yes, it was old, but there was just something special about being in that ballpark. It was very intimate. There was security, but there wasn't as much. So you're able to kind of mingle with the fans a lot more than you are at Nationals Park, which isn't a bad thing. But at RFK, you were able to actually like grow relationships with the fans and talk to little kids and talk to the older families who waited generations for a brand new team. And there's a lot of season tickets holders that have been here since day one in '05 that are still here that I've kept in contact with over the years. And whenever I don't have any obligations, I'll go down and sit with them at games. It's great. It's to build those relationships and be able to stay in contact with them for almost 20 years now. It's a pretty special thing.
RFK at that time was old and kind of run down. I mean, we're still talking about
Yeah.
that site on the show day in and day out as the Commanders are hoping to build a football stadium there ultimately. But now it's dilapidated, and they're going to eventually bulldoze it. What was it like as a ballpark? I remember as a kid being in the crowd. I know that experience, but from a playing standpoint, like the clubhouses, some of the resources you guys had, what was it like?
I mean, it wasn't as nice as other ballparks were, but I mean, it was still for me. I didn't mind it because I was still playing Major League Baseball. You know, I was in a Major League Baseball clubhouse. It didn't matter how small it was, or if we didn't have some of the other amenities that a lot of the other ballparks, the newer ballparks had. For me, I was just felt lucky enough, and I was just happy to kind of be able to be there, basically.
And you were a young guy, 23, that
Mhm.
first year in DC at RFK, in your third year in the big leagues, but it would have been your second full season. So, what do you remember about that transition? You guys are leaving Montreal. Baseball takes over the team. They're coming to DC. There's still a lot getting sorted out in terms of ownership and whatever, but nobody really knew if it was going to work, what it was going to be like. What do you remember as one of the veteran key cogs on the team about those early days and your expectations?
It was excitement for a lot of the guys. They're trying to figure out, okay, where are we going to live? What's DC like? A lot of us had never really been out here before. But like you said, we weren't nobody really understood if it was going to work or not. Or nobody knew what kind if the fans are going to come out because you know um, it is a transplant city. There's not a whole lot of people who are from DC more now, but trying to figure out what's our fan base going to be like, and it showed. They were our fans. They came out and they supported us. I mean, we still every now and then would have at that first year would get, depending on who we played, we'd get more out of state, out of city fans than DC fans if we played the Mets or the Cardinals, who always travel well. But for the most part, I mean, the Nationals fans, they came out and they supported us. We always saw the curly W in the stands, the old Nationals logo that was everywhere on t-shirts and jackets and stuff. And so we knew after the first couple of homestands, that we were going to be able to build a fan base here, which is going to be great.
Chad Cordero is with us, one of the OG Washington Nationals. Was there another All Star with you that first year?
Yep, Levon
Or
Hernandez.
Okay,
Levo.
because
Yeah.
I've been saying you were the first Nats All
Mhm.
Star, but you two together
Right.
represented the team in that first year. But the first game back in DC, that the answer to all the trivia questions, you just heard the highlight. Charlie on the call, was Thursday, April 14th, 2005. So you guys started on the road and you played 9 road games at Philly, the Marlins, and the Braves. And then you come back to play the Diamondbacks. So take me back to that day. It's Levon Hernandez, Javier Vasquez. What do you remember about the first game in DC in 35 years? Which, it's funny to think about, Danny. When I was a little kid and I heard they'd been gone for 34 years, it felt like it was 100. Like 34 years that's
It's
my
it's
life.
it's multiple
I mean, it's like
generations. Yeah.
you blink and the team's back. But
Mhm.
to me, I'm thinking it's like getting a team for the first time. But there were plenty of grown-ups as a kid at that time who remembered the team getting ripped away from them.
Absolutely.
The emotional day. It had to be crazy.
It was. I mean, you could feel the excitement in the air. And I remember what really kind of introduced me to how the fans were going to be was the first time I saw the stands bouncing up and down, which was nuts for me. I had never seen that before. I'd never experienced anything like that before. So seeing that, especially in the ninth inning when everybody was jumping up and down, the RFK was rocking and rolling and literally shaking. It was pretty exciting. But talking to the fans before the game, having a chance to go down the third base line, signing some autographs, talking to some people, there were quite a few of them that had tears in their eyes, and you can really feel and sense the joy and happiness that they felt finally having a team back.
You played big time college baseball at Cal State Fullerton. You sleep, by the way, Grant, on Kirk Sarloos, his teammate from back in the day, who was, I believe, a first round
He
draft
was the
pick,
one
right?
who introduced me to the flat bill.
Oh, was he
Oh
really?
yeah.
I
He was
remember Kirk
filthy.
Saarloos well. I think he got dealt to the Orioles at one point.
He was
Years,
filthy.
years into his career.
But so I would love, I've heard the story before for our listeners who maybe haven't heard it. The story of your bullpen when people are when it's like, hey, here's some scouts, here's a GM that's going to come see Chad Cordero to see if we're going to draft this young man to be one of the future building blocks of our organization.
So this is when the Expos are scouting you?
This is
So
right. Yeah.
So this is when they had already drafted me. So they
already drafted you.
they had
Okay.
already drafted me. And first round pick, which I think a lot of people were already shocked enough that I was a first round pick. I mean, I didn't look like it. I was, 5'11", didn't throw very hard. but here I was a first round pick. So they flew myself, my dad, and my brothers out to New York to go watch the Expos play the Mets at Shea Stadium, and they wanted me to throw a bullpen. And it'd been about 2 weeks probably since I picked up a ball because we had the College World Series. I took a little bit of time off to kind of just rest my arm a little bit, but they told me I was going to throw a bullpen, so I was a nervous wreck. I was meeting Frank Robinson for the first time, who I knew everything about, and my dad made it a point to make sure I knew who he was, and so having a chance to meet him already made it even 10 times worse. And so there I am. Yeah, Frank's out there, Randy St. Clair's out there, the GM, a couple of the front office guys are just standing behind me at Shea Stadium watching me throw a bullpen. I think I threw 20 pitches and 19 of them were in the dirt. And I think so my dad overheard Frank Robinson say, "This is our first round pick." Like, so I was like, I thought right then and there my career was done before it even started.
Brutal. But you go on to have all the success. And as I said, pitching to a 180 ERA year one in DC, you're already established. And you were a workhorse too. You don't see this as much anymore, but you had a couple of years in a 3-year stretch where you were pitching 75 times.
Oh yeah,
which is just uncommon now.
Yeah, I mean, because at that point, Frank was using me really as both a closer or as a setup man and a closer for the most part.
How did that work? Like you were the A closer and the B setup man or something? Or
That's pretty much how it was. I remember there was a game in Cincinnati where I think we were tied going in the 8th inning, and he had me go 8, 9, 10, and in a tie ball game, which as a closer you'd never really do.
you
But
threw
I
3 innings.
threw 3 innings. Yep,
Mm.
yep. And I think even in '05, I think at one point I think I'd thrown 11 out of 13 games. I think as well.
So what's your philosophy on the arm problems that we're having now? Because you just said how many out of 13?
11 out of 13.
So like if Davey uses a guy 3 days in a row, I'm screaming.
Mhm.
And I'm like, why don't you just go out and rip his arm off? If I mean, you just might as well. How have we gotten here? A lot of people say it's velocity.
Mhm.
Maybe, but then you have people who get upset at Boston, as an example, who right now are having everyone throw more breaking balls. And there's old school GMs, and I've talked to some of them who go, you can't have a guy throw that many sliders, that many curveballs. You're going to blow his arm out. And I'm going, well, it can't be both. It can't be that it's guys are throwing too hard and that they're throwing too many breaking balls. So
Mhm.
what do you make of it?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it could have something to do with the fact that everybody is throwing a lot harder now. It does take a huge toll on the arm. I only threw 88, 89, so wasn't really a huge I didn't hurt my arm as much as other guys, so I was able to go out there and throw a lot more. But guys, it's max effort on almost every pitch. So, if you're going out there, even if you throw 15, 20 pitches at max effort, it's gonna take a big toll on your arm. So you're not gonna be able to go, 2 or 3 days in a row anymore. You might only be able to go maybe 2 tops, 3 sometimes, but not as much as they used to back when, in the days when I was playing.
Was your 88, 89 max effort?
No.
So you could have thrown harder.
I could have, but
What could you have consistently thrown at max effort?
probably 92. So not much harder than that.
Okay, but don't you agree, Danny, that if there's 3 miles per hour to be had right now, someone's just throwing 92 max
Well, that's what they're doing now. And the point that you and I always make, and I've made this to Grant a million times, Chad, is we lose the Chad Cordero because you can't make the travel team, you can't make the high school team, you can't make the college team, you can't get scouted. There's no Maddox, there's no Glavin, there's no craftsmanship to it. It's, do you have enough RPMs? Are you 96 as an 18-year-old? If not, we're wasting our time.
Were you a
Right.
spin rate guy?
I had no idea what spin rate was at that point.
Right.
Nobody had really talked to me about it until I started coaching with the Reds a couple years ago.
But I wonder because like 89 plays like 91 if
Mhm.
you're a spin
Because
rate
guys
guy.
didn't hit him hard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there was something was going on that was like my 89, I couldn't throw 89. But if I could throw 89, I would have gotten tattooed. And you weren't getting hit. Like
From what
the
I
way
was
it played.
told, I hit the ball very well.
Yep.
So I think Michael Barrett at one point told me he was like, you throw the invisible. You guys can't pick it up until it's too late. I think Jack Wilson was telling me that too when I played with him with the Mariners. He was like, I knew you were only going to throw me 88-mile-an-hour fastballs, but he's like, you can't. He's like, I couldn't pick it up. So I think it was something how I hit the ball, which helped me out because 89, doesn't play that like it used to anymore. If you throw 89 down the middle, like we were talking about earlier, it gets hit 500 feet.
And you mostly threw fastball exclusively.
Yep.
More often than not, if you come in and throw 15 to 18 pitches, you're throwing all fastballs.
Right. I threw about 99% fastballs. And I remember, I kid you not, so my junior year in college, I don't know what made me do it, but I went back and counted how many breaking balls I threw my junior year in college and back in 2003. I threw 10 breaking balls the entire season at Fullerton. That was it. Everything
And you
else
got drafted 20th overall.
I did. Yep.
Sitting 88 or whatever.
Off a 50-win College World Series bound team.
Yep.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not asking at 42 years old today, could you go out and get big league out? But could a guy who's 21 out of State Fullerton or wherever, throwing 89 fastball only with some deception, locating, thrive in the big leagues today or no? Because you don't even get a chance. Like, and I'm guilty of this. If I saw the Nats debut some guy they called up tonight who was like 89, I'd be like, all right, who's the next guy? Like, and I know that's not fair, right? But could someone do that? We don't have relievers in the sport that do that.
I think so. They might not have like a super long career, but I think somebody can come up and pitch for a good, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years and have a decent run. But nowadays you do need to have that, that extra something special where you can maybe hopefully touch 94, 95. If you just consistently throw 88, 89, it might be a little bit tougher, but I think they could. But they just have to learn how to pitch, locate the pitches in and out, up and down. Because for me, the way I look at it, if you can do in, out, up and down, that's 4 different pitches right there, off of one fastball. That's it. So I think if you can do that, if you can locate and not worry about just trying to blow it by guys, I think you can have a decent career.
What was your key? In other words, I'm trying to throw this thing straight and true. Were you trying to, sink it, cut it a little bit, try to ride it? Like, in other words, when you go, I'm feeling good today. This is doing what I want. What did that look like?
For me, it was just if I was feeling really good, honestly, that was a bad day for me because I was going to try to overthrow. So the days that I felt, or the days that I threw the best, were the days where my arm just felt terrible because I went out there. I didn't try to do too much. I just stayed within myself and just trusted my ability to throw to dot it on the black.
Because you usually hear that about sinker guys, right? If they're too fresh, they throw through the sinker. They don't get the run. They don't get the dip. So that's interesting for a four-seam guy to feel that way.
Yeah, because it's if you try to do too much, if you try to throw too hard, your mechanics going to get out of whack, and you're going to tend to throw a lot more pitches down the middle of the plate. It's just like golf. If you try to hit as hard as you can, it's going to go all over the place. It's for me, it's the same thing as in pitching. If you try to rear back and throw it 100 miles an hour, you're probably going to throw it maybe 91, and you're going to leave it middle, and you're probably going to get hit 500 feet like Andrew Jones used to do to me.
Not often enough that All-Star season. Chad Cordero, closer with the Nationals back in their early days here in D.C. I want to talk about getting to Nats Park in 2008. Also, I want to dive into the idea moving forward of an electronic strike zone and some of what's going on in baseball with rule changes. You didn't deal with pitch comms, right? And the voice in your ear going, fastball, low, away. So we'll get into all that with Chad Cordero, who's hanging out.